It would seem that everything in the world can be explained by science, but apparently not everything's that simple. There are very strange, mysterious, and anomalous places in the world. A waterfall that freezes in summer instead of winter, a well that dissolves water, a column that defies the laws of physics, and much more. Let's take a look at them. This is Infinity, and in this episode, I'll show you 10 places on Earth that are scientifically impossible. Singing Dune. In Almaty region, Kazakhstan, you can find many natural beauties. Among them, there's a singing dune, a mountain of light-colored sand which is up to 1.8 miles long and about 500 feet high. From the dune, there's a beautiful view of the river Ili and purple mountains Sogeti and Boguti. But the main feature of the dune is its songs. It's called singing for a reason. When the weather is dry, the dune really makes melodious sounds that resemble a pipe organ. It also resembles the sound of a boat that can be heard from the shore, well, or the takeoff of a small plane. By the way, write in the comments, what does this sound remind you of? For a long time, scientists thought that such a place could not exist in nature, and the locals explained the mysterious singing in their own way. According to a local legend, Shaitan, who wandered around the world and queer people's pitch, turned into the dune. According to another version, Genghis Khan and his associates were buried in the sands. It's said that the dune sings when Genghis Khan's soul, exhausted from mental suffering, tells his descendants about his exploits. This is a beautiful legend, but scientists managed to find out the truth. According to them, the cause of the sound of the sand is the friction of the sand grains as they move. The greater the moving mass of the sand, the more expressive the sound, from a weak squeak to the melody of an organ or even a rumble. Only dry sand masses make sounds. If researchers have been able to explain the mystery of the singing sands, then they still have difficulties with the Darvaza gas crater. This amazing place is located in Turkmenistan and is officially called the Gates of Hell. Makes sense because this gas crater looks like the entrance to the underworld, but it's not always like this. In 1971, not far from the small village of Darvaza, geologists began to drill an exploration well. During drilling, scientists accidentally stumbled on an underground cavity which caused the ground to collapse and formed a large hole filled with gas. The derrick with all its equipment and vehicles fell into the hole, but people were not hurt. To keep the harmful gases from escaping, they were set on fire. Scientists were sure that the gas would burn out in a few days, but they were very much mistaken. More than 50 years has passed, but Darvaza is still burning continuously day and night. This baffles scientists. They don't understand how this is possible. How is it possible for the gas to burn for so long? It seems that we will not get to the truth. But one thing is clear. The burning of huge amounts of gas has a negative impact on the environment and on the health of people living nearby. So the authorities of Turkmenistan plan to seal the gates of hell in the near future. Racetrack Playa. A dried-up lake called the Racetrack Playa is located in the northwestern part of Death Valley National Park in California. I think many of you know Death Valley is one of the most unusual places in the world, and it's incredibly arid and hellishly hot. As for the Racetrack Playa, outwardly it's the most usual dry lake. But there's a but. Stones weighing tens of kilograms move along its clay bottom. An important point is that these stones move on their own. Don't think they're pushed by tourists, small animals, or at least an army of dung beetles. There are no footprints other than those of the rocks themselves at the bottom of the Racetrack Playa, and the trajectory of the stones is completely arbitrary. But how is it possible? How, according to science, can inanimate creatures move, and even do it at considerable distances? Scientists have several versions. According to the first, the reason for the mysterious movement lies in specific magnetic fields. According to the second, the rocks are pushed by the wind, which reaches tens of meters per second in the valley. According to the third, the stones are set in motion by small earthquakes. And according to the fourth, at certain moments, the bottom of the lake is covered by a layer of water. At night, the water freezes, and the stones slide on the thin ice. It's still unknown exactly which of these versions is true. Maybe some one of them, maybe all of them together, or maybe the answer to the moving stones is something else. At the 23rd mile of the Curonian Spit in Kaliningrad Oblast, Russia, you can find a patch of coniferous forest that's different from any forest you've ever seen in your life. The trees here are tilted, curved, and twisted into spirals, which is why the place is nicknamed the Dancing Forest. The forest was planted in 1961, and it's still unclear why the pines dance. As in the case of the moving stones, scientists have many theories. According to one of them, the trunks of young trees were damaged by caterpillars of the moth species called pine shoot moth. According to the other, the reason is the geomagnetic influence of the tectonic fissure. But UFOologists call a different version, according to which representatives of an extraterrestrial civilization make the forest dance. Coincidence or not, but in Poland you can come across approximately the same forest. Here it's called the Crooked One. It's also planted with tilted and dancing pines. The shape of these trees has most likely been anthropogenically influenced, but neither the purpose nor the method is known. Scientists are left to guess why the trees in Kaliningrad Oblast and Poland grow so strangely. Let's digress from nature a bit and move to India. The Indian subcontinent is the birthplace of the ancient Indus Valley civilization, which means it's full of mysteries, but few can compare with the Iron Pillar of Delhi. The 23-foot-high, 6.5-ton iron column is located in Delhi. On the surface, it's an ordinary column, which many of you would never pay attention to. But in Delhi, it's one of the main attractions. Why? The fact is that it was erected as far back as the beginning of the 5th century AD, and in all that time, the column has almost completely avoided corrosion. In other words, for more than 1,500 years, it's barely rusted. How's this possible, when usually metals can start to rust after only a few years? No one has the answer to that question. This column defies the laws of physics and science in general, and puzzles scientists. They don't understand how in the 5th century people managed to get a prototype of modern weather-resistant steel. One assumption is that the Iron Pillar of Delhi owes its longevity to the favorable climate and the oils which pilgrims rubbed on it. Lake Shaitan. There are a huge number of large and small lakes in Kirov Oblast, Russia, but one of the most unique is Lake Shaitan, surrounded on 3 sides by forest. This lake is of interest to scientists and ordinary people for several reasons. In brief, the lake behaves quite strangely. First, fountains of water up to 33 feet high appear above the surface of the lake. The most common are not very high eruptions in the form of boiling water. Such a process can last for several hours. Secondly, on the lake you can come across floating islands. Curiously enough, they're quite dense and stable. Trees can even grow, or people can stand on their surface. Another mysterious lake can be found in Finland. In the country itself, by the way, there are about 190,000 lakes, which is why Finland is often called the land of 1,000 lakes. Among so many reservoirs, something mystical could not fail to appear, and Lake Paselka became one. Regularly, in any weather and at any time of day, but most often at night in the fall, you can observe mysterious lights wandering on the water surface. Some of them resemble tongues of flame, and some resemble balls. According to Finnish beliefs, the lights point to places where treasure is hidden. According to legend, many people dived into the lake and swam to the treasure, but the lights lured the greedy adventurers to dangerous depths from which few came out alive. According to another version, something evil and dangerous lives at the bottom of the lake, which emits this strange light. Scientists do not yet understand what exactly they're dealing with. Perhaps the lights are discharges of electricity in the atmosphere, the so-called St. Elmo's fire. Perhaps the clue lies in the methane that comes out of the ground and ignites. And perhaps there are even traces of the movement of UFOs. Such an alternative version was put forward. Kelimutu. There are many volcanoes in Indonesia, and Kelimutu is one of them. It's located on the island of Flores. But it's not the volcano itself that's interesting, but its 3 crater lakes. Each of them is colored in its own way, and their colors, they change. Color change occurs spontaneously. This or that lake may repaint literally in a matter of hours. Such a thing is rare in general, but it's a real anomaly for 3 lakes to change their color at once and so unpredictably. What do scientists think? According to them, it's all about chemical reactions occurring at the bottom of reservoirs. The locals have a different point of view. They believe that the souls of the dead go into these lakes, and the change in their color means the souls are angry. Thor's Well. If there's a gateway to the underworld, It's in the American state of Oregon, at Cape Perpetua. There's a mysterious Thor's Well, which for decades has puzzled scientists. The well is a funnel with a diameter of about 16 feet and a depth of about 20 feet. During storms, high tides, and low tides, this place turns into a real fountain, which puts on a free show for all comers. The water rushes with noise and roar deep into the funnel to burst out in millions of splashes, and then to collapse into the well again. Sometimes it foams and grudgingly rumbles and simply flows into the bottomless pit and dissolves in its infinity. This is the main mystery. No one knows where exactly the water disappears to. It really seems to dissolve, and the well itself is not filled to the top. Scientists suppose that the well is probably connected to a network of underground caves, and it's into them that the water rushes. But it's impossible to check this. Scientists don't have the proper equipment, and it's dangerous to lower down divers. Most likely they'll disappear in the well as the water. In cold weather, water freezes and turns to ice, and in warm weather it splashes around in a liquid state. These are the basic fundamentals of physics, of which we all know about from our early years. In theory, everything in the world should obey this rule, but there are abnormal exceptions. One of them is the Hukou waterfall. It's located in the Chinese province of Shanxi. On the face of it, this is an ordinary, though powerful waterfall, but it's still an unsolved natural mystery. In winter, when the temperature in the region plunges to minus 22 degrees Fahrenheit, the waterfall doesn't freeze. But once every 25 years, it gets covered with a layer of ice in the middle of a warm summer. Hukou clearly has a special perception of temperature. Scientists don't fully understand how this is possible, and they still can't make up their minds about this complex phenomenon. That's all, guys. Which place from this episode seemed the most mysterious and abnormal to you? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and see you later.